Welcome back. War Machine episode 21. I realized in episode 20, we did all that sound deadening and everything. I didn't really tell you about the product I used as much as I should have, or as much as I normally do. So I'm going to start off with that. This is a product I use. I got it from Amazon. It's called Noiko Solutions. This is a 80 mil, 36 square foot box. Looks like I went back and I looked. It was like $36.99 a box. I think I used about 2.5 boxes in doing it. Like I said, I really like the stuff a lot. It seemed like it was really easy to work with. I did buy one of those little rollers. I think it was like $6. I think I got it off Amazon too. It came in handy. The stuff was easy to shape with my fingers and move into gaps. It cut really easy. I would recommend the product. Like I said, I haven't driven the truck yet to know if it really does deaden the way it should, but just bang on it with my hand, and when I talk inside the truck, things like that, it seems like it's going to work very well. I have no reason to believe that it won't work well. So if you're looking to do that and you're looking for some, try that product out. Like I said, I like it. It was really affordable, really easy to work with. I liked it a lot. Moving on to this. We're going to start working on the cowl panel. First things first, we're going to try and get this airbox put in. So here we go. All right, well, finally got that sound deadener put all over the inside of that thing. Let me just go and tell you, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. Actually, pretty much everything in this damn truck has taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. I didn't take into account that when you only get 30 to 45 minutes to work, here and there, that you can't get anything done, like ever, because it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to figure out what I was doing last time I worked on it. So nonetheless, got all the sound deadener put on the inside of it. Now I've got to finish the underside of this cowl right here, which I didn't get done before when I was building the floor out and all that, because I really wanted to get all that done so that I could mount my airbox and everything inside it and see what actually needed to be cut away from this thing so that I could rebuild the whole thing. So what I like now essentially is I've got to trim out some right here, maybe a little bit right here, so that I can get the box mounted to the front of the firewall. Once I get that done, then I can go ahead and finish the hole in the side of the cowl here. Then I'll scuff it off and I'll blow some POR-15 on it like I did the rest of the truck, and finally be ready to sit this cab down and bolt her up for the final time. So hopefully this goes well. I've already tried to kind of roughly sit up there in place, start the two bottom studs and kind of roll it up here. I know I've got to do a little cut right here. I'm take the plasma cutter and lop that off right quick and see what we get. Don't think anything's on fire in there, so that's a good sign. So I'm anticipating this thing is probably going to require a fair bit of trimming to get it set in there, because when it goes in, the firewall is at an angle that angles back, and so when it goes in and kicks up, I'm figuring I'm going to have to cut out some more of this, which kind of sucks a little bit, but I mean, it is what it is. I've got to come along and still clean off what little bit of flange there was left from the old piece right there, but I'll do that off camera. I won't make you sit through that. So let's clean this slag up right quick and see what we get here. Still not gonna let me do it. Looks like I gotta cut out a little bit more. I mean, I could cut just a little bit of this off, but I mean, hell, I've already cut some of the metal off. Might as well cut a little bit more. I think the old 54 over there is liking getting sparks thrown on it too much. Hopefully one of these days I can finish that for the channel too. Let us see. Whew. So what I really need to do is figure out some kind. Looks like if I could ever get it under there, it'll fit pretty nice. I just got to get it under there some type of way, because it actually opens up on the back side back there. If this thing bolted from the inside instead of had studs, I could probably do that. Well, what do you know? I don't know if you can see it right there, but looks like there's like a little 10 millimeter head right there. So if I can take those studs off, I wonder if I can get this thing up in there. Nah, it's still not gonna fit. This guy's gonna be an issue. So the question is, do I cut this out more? Or do I cut this down? Well, as you can imagine, with any custom project, there's all kind of bull crap you have to deal with. Every time you think you got one thing figured out, something else comes along, pokes you in the eye. So in the process of trying to fit my airbox, I was working on this area, and then I realized that my upper hood hinge, this big ass bracket, goes right here and kind of interferes with everything all in this area. So you can see I already cut one chunk out of it right here. I was thinking maybe I could just cut that out and, maybe kind of whittle it down right here enough so it would fit in there. Well, the more I get to looking, Lord, no, man, all this crap's in the way. So what I'm actually going to have to come along and do is I'm going to cut this thing right along this line. I'm going to drill out these spot welds down through here and see if I can get enough clearance, just by whittling it away, get enough clearance to get the airbox in there and get it all bolted in place. And then I'll just have to come back and rebuild that side of the hinge after the fact. So I'm going to cut some steel and then we'll come back and see what I come up with. Woo! Y'all have no idea how awesome of a sight that is. I thought just getting the airbox in there was going to be a pain in the butt, having to trim into the firewall or the old cowl and all that. But then once I got the airbox, finally I got enough trimmed out for it to go in. And then I looked up and realized, oh man, this hinge is all in the way. Well, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of that hinge left. It's taken me 3 hours of cutting and trimming and butchering all of these things. You can see I had to cut into my airbox right here. I'm gonna have to go back and patch that all back in and together, and there ain't much left of that hinge right there. I'll probably build like a support that goes over to the fender once I get the fender on there and get to that point. But they are both on there, bolted in place, ready to function. So now I just got to take them back off and build everything back in. I'll make another video here in a minute after I get everything back off and show you what we got to rebuild. All right, so you can see the window that I had to cut into the airbox right there. That's not a problem. I can bring home some stuff from work and kind of glue and fill that in just good enough. Now next up, as you can see right in here, this is my air inlet, and it goes all the way underneath the cowl under here. My air inlet for the airbox where it pulls air from the cowl. Now, here's the factory piece. Actually it goes like this. As you can see, it is really tall, and I don't have that much room in there for this thing. You can see right now I've already started cutting it apart. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this little top section right here. This little piece right here. That's the part that actually goes right on the top of the airbox. I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to reattach that to the airbox, and then see what I got to do about kind of maybe cutting this little thin piece of this top section where it would seal off right there. Try to cut that off and just glue it directly to the top flange. So let's see how that comes out. All right, well, working on this, trying to make all this airbox stuff play together nicely. As you can see, I've had to cut out a pretty good little section there, the front of that cowl panel, to try to get all this stuff to fit right. So let me try and stick this stuff up here and show you what's going on. Here's the chunk of the airbox. This was the air inlet that goes in the top. As you can see, I've cut a large amount off. I cut like, 2 inches off that thing. As you can see, while I was tacking my new little bracket together, I torched a good chunk of it, so that'll be fun to fix. So what I did was mounted this guy right up in here. Ooh, sorry about that. You can see I put my little line there where this guy sits. So that sits in there just like that. Now, there's our air intake tube. Now, this I cut out of the cowl of the 2000 model. Remember, I still had that left out of that old cowl panel. So I cut it loose so that I could use it, because for that shape right there, there's actually a factory screen right there that I'm going to use. I'm going to put that screen inside this little well right here to block debris from getting in there. Now this sits right over top like this. Forgive me if it gets a little funky because I'm trying to hold the camera and put this stuff in there at the same stinking time. It's not as easy as it would seem, maybe. All right, so let's see here. All right. I'll line it up on my little line here. All right, so that's lined up on the line. You see how that guy sits, just like that. I made a few marks here and there to try to get it all lined up and in place as I move it. Then, made this trusty bracket right here. So he sits up here like this. Put some screws in it to hold it in place. So that guy sits there just like that. You put the screws in it, it puts just a little bit of pressure down onto this, presses it into that foam, which I will have to replace. Should be fun to find some stuff that's the right thickness there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use vice grips to hold these two pieces together. Then I've already got a little mark on the piece to line them up. And I'm going to go ahead, you see I've got the holes there, so I'll plug weld those pieces together. That way I'll be able to screw them up and in place, take the air box off, start building in all the underside of my cowl. So I'll get the air box off now and move on to the next stage. I took it back out and went ahead and I took the piece that was fastened to the top of the air box off. And if you remember, I had cut down a chunk out of the center of it. And if you look, there's a chunk that I cut out of the center of it. Throw that in the garbage. Done with it. So I went ahead and I've got the steel tacked together and got it tacked in place. So I went ahead now and I've glued together, kind of, rudimentarily. I don't know if that's even a word. I don't know. Anyhow, I glued this thing together. That way I can put it together enough to stick the air box and everything all back into the truck. And I've got to make a bracket on the inside to tack the steel together. So I'll get it stuck together and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Maybe you'll understand a little bit better. So I took the air box off, and if you remember earlier when I had this piece right here and I cut like, I don't know, 1.5 inches out of it. Now I've been working this whole time just kind of sliding this guy in place. But I went ahead and I took the air box off. I unscrewed this piece from the top. It kind of slides in and then this bolt holds it in place. So I went ahead and as you can see now, I put some glue on it. And I glued it around the whole inside so it would hold it in place real good. I've got my upper bracket up here. It's made and it's screwed in place. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see it. This is the bracket that's got the opening cut in it for the top. Now, as you can see, right here, there's a gap right there. So my next move is going to be, I'm going to have to make a little bracket that will come down from here and sit on this. That way I can kind of locate that. And I'm also thinking about having to make some type of little baffle or something to keep water from running down in the air box too. So we'll see what I come up with here and we'll be back. So let me show you what I had to do right here, because navigating all the crap that I had to go through to get that air box under there and deal with a couple problems that I hadn't thought about while doing it. So you saw before where we made this bracket. Now I made another bracket that goes into the existing cowl or firewall from the 2000 model that's there. That's this bracket here. I used the bracket that you had seen earlier that has the perfect hole cut out in it. Well, when I got to looking at it, you have a piece of like a grill, the grill that I showed you earlier, that I was going to sit down inside the air box. Well, when I got to looking at it, the problem with doing it down in there is that originally on the factory air box, it was sitting on a raised piece. It was about 4 inches higher than the top of the air box. I didn't really realize why that was like that until I got to working on this. Basically, that is there so that when water gets down the air box, it will run around that instead of going down into the air box. And obviously the screen is to keep various debris and things like that from getting in there. So what I did, because I didn't have room for those 4 inches at all of that, so I cut it off, and that's when I took the screen off of it. So what I did, obviously, I got my bracket welded to the, I don't know, oval shaped piece or whatever that I cut out of the old cow. So I got this guy. This is the screen that I was going to mount down in there. And as you can see here, I cut it to fit just inside there. And I took and I made me two little small brackets underneath here so that I can put a pipe rivet here and a pipe rivet here to hold it in place. Then I'll come back with a bead of seam sealer and run it all the way around the inside of this thing right here. That way it's all nice and sealed up. I got about 3/4 of an inch there that water can run around it. I don't have to worry about water running into my air box. Well, then by the time I figured that out, I also looked up and realized that when I was looking down to check out how all this needed to fit together, that I was actually looking down straight through the cowl panel and the holes in the cowl panel. So obviously when rain or water or anything comes through there, it's just going to go straight into the air box. So to combat that, I made this, which is more or less a windage plate, I guess. And that guy sits just like this over top of that. Now the vents in the cowl stop about right here. So any rain that would come down through the cowl should hit this, run down it, and then subsequently run around and down, because it actually mounts like this in there. So it should hit this, run down it, run around, and drain out the side in the drain that I've already made in the side there. So I'm gonna stick this all up in there, make sure it fits good. I've already test fitted it, but not with this piece on there. Stick it up in there, test fit it, make sure it tests good. If it does, I'm gonna go ahead, weld this guy down, and hopefully I'll be able to stick this whole assembly up in there for the last time, and at least screw it in place and do one final test fit, put the air box on it, make sure everything's good, and then final weld this piece on. This took a lot more engineering than I had really anticipated. I was thinking I was just gonna kind of fake it all into some metal and be done. There again, not so simple. Are you sensing a theme here? I kind of am. Everything on this is just not quite as simple as I thought it would be. Such is life, right? All right, folks. There it is in all its glory. My little windage tray is welded on. My screen is in there. Everything is all seam sealed. I went ahead and put a coat of etch on it and threw a little Rust-Oleum black on there, because I won't be able to get to it once I weld it all in. So hopefully that works as planned. Now let's get her installed. All right, well, after about, I don't know, a week of grinding and welding and hammering, I finally got all this stuff to play nice together. As you can see, right there, finally got everything all worked in so the air box will fit in there. So let me show you all this and tell you what I did here. So this is actually, all this is probably like 14 intricate pieces that I had to build strength and rigidity back into this post right here, because this is where the hood hinge mounts, and all that has to be strong, and it has to be built in strong enough because it's, you know, supporting all the cowl and all that weight and everything. Obviously, you saw this whole piece before we put it in. That thing went in there, fit great. The air box fits in there, bolts in its factory location like it should. The hood hinge will go on now. I'm going to have to kind of strengthen that up a little bit. I'm going to do that after the air box is mounted. Woo! Man, let me tell you. Looking back on it now, it was really fun and it was really interesting to watch it all come together. At the time, it was mega frustrating. It's one of the things I look forward to when I want to take on this project, was trying to find the ways to make the 77 and the 2000 parts kind of, intertwine, because you're putting an airbox somewhere where it's not supposed to be, and then having to figure out how to deal with the water as it runs through the cowl panel, and deal with that, and having to make the windage tray and all that. It was fun to sit there and figure out, because it's not just cut and dry. It's not just take a bolt out, bolt a new piece on here. You have to make this stuff work, and that's what makes a project like this so cool, is seeing how people deal with the adversities that they come upon doing it, things maybe you didn't think about. Looking back on it, editing this, I liked it. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, throw a brother a subscribe, throw me a like. If you have questions about how I did something or why I did something, put it in the comments. I'd answer any comments. I haven't had a lot, but the ones that I do get, I always make sure to answer them. come back for 22. We're at the point now, everything, we're just going back together now, just having to deal with some stuff like that along the way. And we're going to get this thing built. Hopefully sooner than later, we're going to be cruising. So see you in the next one.